We are bombarded with about 11 to 60 million bits of information at a time, and we can only process 126 bits. That's how we create our reality. You have to change the way that you think about your past to create a new future. You're listening to The Brendon Marotta Show.
In this episode, I talk to the best healer I know, my wife, Kristeena Marotta. I don't know that I can summarize this episode because we talk about a lot of different subjects, some of which are very personal. We talk about what healing work actually takes and the amount of commitment involved, the healing work that we had to do before meeting each other, and the healing work we had to do after meeting each other. We give some really practical advice for people starting their healing journey and address some common misconceptions and objections people have to healing. And for those of you who are further along in your healing journey, we give you some really advanced tools that you can use to go even deeper. Now, here is Kristeena. So my first live interview. You know, you're the first live interview of the show, the first in-person interview.
I am?
They've all been.
Oh yeah, they've all been on the
They've
internet.
all been on the internet. Yep.
Well, that's exciting.
So, hon, do you want to? Is there a way that you can safely, even though you have a baby now, that you could tune into the collective consciousness of our audience and see what they need to know about the subjects we're going to talk about?
I mean, it's going to come out.
It's going to come out? Okay. So the question I want to start with is, what is healing? Because I think that's a subject a lot of people have misconceptions about or false ideas about. So first, how do you define healing?
I define healing as experiencing the opposite. And a lot of times people will force healing upon people. They'll tell them that there's something wrong with them, and people are guilted into doing internal work. And then there's a lot of resentment that comes up with that. So it's a double edge there. The person actually has to want to heal. They have to be 100% in it, or it won't work. And the other person, they can't be forced. Some other misconceptions is that it's easy and that you can just do it one time and there you go, it's over. Healing is something that's continual. It never ends. And in the kind of healing and stuff that I do, that we know that the unconscious mind only allows you to...
What are you smiling about?
I'm having a podcast with my husband, and I look at you and I get excited.
Oh. Yeah, so I'll put that in the intro, but in case anyone hasn't figured out, Kristeena is my wife and the best healer that I know.
How do I gotta start over?
You can, hon, I think we should give up on the idea of making this a purely professional, objective. If you laugh and you want to joke with me, that's going to go in the podcast. I know that you are a brilliant person, that you have all the information on healing, that you're a master trainer of NLP, you're trained in completion process, you're trained in timeline therapy, quantum time technique. You're training all these different things, but like we're doing a podcast with me. So this is the only podcast that you can admire how handsome the host is. So I think you should take full advantage of that. On other podcasts, you can be purely professional and, do your thing, but which I know you're capable of. But on this one, if you get tripped up because you're just staring in the host's eyes and you find them too dreamy to focus because you're just thinking about how happy you are to be having my baby, then I think that would be fine.
So, a little bit about our unconscious mind is that it is there to keep you safe. And if people were to experience all the trauma and everything that has ever happened to them at all times, then they would not be alive. Your unconscious mind will only allow things to surface when it's safe to do so. So in meeting you, I had a lot of trauma in my life. And as our relationship progressed, more and more stuff kept bubbling.
For both of us.
And because I was safe to do so. I was safe to speak. I was safe to have my emotions, my feelings, my desires, my wants. And my unconscious mind was like, here you go. Here's the next thing. Here you go. That's the next thing. A lot of people get into the healing and stuff like that thinking they're like, okay, I'm one and done. Like, I do breakthrough work with people, and we work on one specific thing, one issue. We break through that, and then they go off into their life and do more things. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, something else came up. I thought we did this. I'm like, no, we dealt with that one issue. Your unconscious mind is like an onion. It's going to pull back a layer, and it's going to be this continuous thing. Now, a lot of people get stuck in like, oh, well, there's something wrong with me if I continuously have to do this. I think of it as a blessing, because the more and more I know about myself, the easier it is to connect and relate to other people because of the trauma and stuff that I have experienced. That means I know how to navigate that. I know how to navigate it and take someone from that into a better future. But yeah, so that's what healing is to me.
I think that point about it being a continual process is important, because a lot of people treat healing not as a process, but as a task. Like, I'm going to check this off my list and be done. And I always compare it to working out, in the sense that you're not done working out. It's not like that I did my deadlift and now I never have to deadlift again.
Yeah.
But the good news is that it can be a fun process once you get into it. So what is the process of healing? So when someone comes to you and they say, I have a problem, there's this area in my life. First of all, what problems might someone come to you with that healing work would be right for? And then when they do, what's the process?
I like to call myself a master of relationship to yourself, relationship to the saboteur inside of you, the one that's telling you can't do things, your relationship to money, to sex, to other people, your parents. So I like to help people in the realm of that, which you have relationships to just about anything. When someone comes to you with an issue, that's normally not the issue. They are, in a problem trance. Like, they only can focus on what that problem is, and there's things that are beneath that. And that's what I focus on. I focus on how they created the problem. It's not really what they think, it's how they think. So how did you create that in your mind? And when people come to me for healing, I work mostly at the unconscious level, because for human beings, 95% of what we do is unconscious, and only 5% is conscious, which is logic, reasoning, and creativity. That's only 5%. All the other stuff, our thoughts, our feelings, our attitudes, our beliefs, our core values, are all unconscious behaviors that are driving that 5%. So I like to ask lots of questions. And a lot of times people are like, you keep asking me the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting down into it, like digging in, completely and totally digging in to see what it is, how they created it, and using the tools and techniques that I have to break them through that. A lot of times people will come to me with one thing and they're like, I had no idea that was the thing holding me back. That was the belief system. That was the negative emotion that was trapped, that was allowing me to be the way that I am and showing up.
One objection that I know that certain people in my audience might have is they'll say, well, my problem isn't mentally created. It's physically real in some way. So it's a physical ailment. I literally don't have the money for something. It's, there's a physical scar, all of these things. So how do you handle that particular objection?
Well, I don't buy into people's BS, their belief systems.
But my problem is real, though.
I have people come to me and be like, oh no, here's my problem. I'm going to put it up on a pedestal. I'm like, everyone has problems. Everyone has those problems. And yes, some can leave scars. Some are in your external reality that it keeps showing up. But the thing is that when you learn about the unconscious mind and you learn about the way that we create our reality, some really great stuff from Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. If you guys are interested in any books, those two are really great. Two doctors on the forefront talking about the unconscious mind and how we create our reality and things like that. That basically, okay, this is going to get kind of meta here. The way one creates the reality is we do 6 things in our mind. We create pictures, we have taste, we have smell, we have our internal self-talk, and we have our feelings. And those things right there, that's how we create our reality. That comes into our senses and then goes through our filters inside of our mind. And based off of that, we generalize, delete, and distort based off our previous experiences. So if you're all free from this, but being sexually abused as a child or something like that, if I keep attracting people that keep abusing me in that kind of way, that is because I'm focused on those things because it's something that happened to me in my past that is being projected out into my reality. Now, we are bombarded with about 11 to 60 million bits of information at a time, and we can only process 126 bits. So we process that based off of what's happened to us in the past and looking for similarities and things like that. So that's how we create our reality. You have to change the way that you think about your past to create a new future. So we were talking about this the other day about there was that commercial, the basketball commercial where the bear goes by.
Yes.
So this is how you focus. What you focus on creates your behavior, creates your results, right?
For those who haven't seen it, there's a awareness test commercial where they ask you to watch how many times the players in one color of jersey pass the ball back and forth. And so you watch, and then at the end of the ad, it says, they passed this many times, but did you notice the dancing bear that moved through the frame? And they rewind it and they play it again. And sure enough, there's a bear mascot moonwalking through the center of the ad. And if you're just looking for the ball being passed, you'll completely miss the moonwalking bear, which any normal person would see. But if you're not looking for it, then you don't see it. And the idea is that this is kind of how our awareness or our reticular activation system works, that we look for what we're looking for and sometimes miss obvious things because we're not looking for them.
Yes. So for me, we talked about this on another little podcast that we did a couple years ago, or it was about a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about the ACE,
Yes.
adverse childhood experiences. I got a 10 on the ACE, and that based off of that, I was focusing on all the things that happened that were wrong with me, and I wasn't focusing on the things that were opposite. So when I met you, I was still focused on, oh no, he's going to leave me. Oh no, this is going to happen. Oh no, so no, like all of these things. And I kept looking for that in my life. And it wasn't until I started healing and learning from those things and actually taking those things that happened to me, getting the learnings and then moving past them, that I was able to see new things. Oh no, he's doing this because he cares. Oh, he's doing this because of this. And that's how we create that reality. And our unconscious mind is a beautiful thing, and we never got a manual for it. And that's the reason why I love the work that I do, is because I teach people about that 95% that a lot of people aren't aware of.
For those that don't know, by the way, the ACE test is the Adverse Childhood Experiences test. It's 10 really common negative experiences people have in childhood. So it's things like being sexually abused.
If a suicide, if a parent hit another parent, if you were neglected, if you were loved. I know that they're trying to get circumcision on that as well.
Yes. So one of the things that Intact America's tried to do is add circumcision to the sexual abuse one. But people who have 4 or more tend to have more life problems, including physical things like cancer, more likely to have medical conditions, all these things. So a 10 is kind of unheard of. And I don't know. I think people who understand that are really surprised. And also, it'd be interesting to put the footage of those side by side, because I can tell in the time that I have known you, you have grown a lot. So, and I think that's important too, because a lot of people might think, oh, my problem, I can't possibly heal it. But like, you've had all the problems and healed
So when people come to me with that, I really, really love reframing people when they talk about their traumas and things like that. Since I have scored so high on the ACE and I have experienced a lot of things, is that I've literally broken through a lot of the things that happened to me. I mean, stuff continues to come up.
Yeah.
And I work with it as it comes up. But that being said, then, yeah, I have changed a lot. At that time, I was a completion process practitioner. Since then, I am a trainer of NLP. I'm a master coach of NLP. I started my own training and coaching company. I work for another training and coaching company as their in-house master coach. And I have dove headfirst into understanding the way that someone's mind works, because if I understand how to program and unprogram that, then the sky is the limit. The biggest thing is that if you believe that you can't be healed, you will not be healed. And that's period, point blank. And now my job when someone comes to me is to reframe them and say, you've lived your life for this long with this problem, with all of these things going on, and you can't get a step forward. How many more years of your life are you going to do that? How about you try something new? I deal with their resistance. People don't like to deal with other people's resistance. It's kind of like they kind of push through or bulldoze it. I welcome people's resistance because I want them to feel safe moving forward in healing. And the way that I explain resistance is pretend like you had a little canoe and you had 6 people in that canoe and you had 6 oarsmen, and 2 of them are going one way and 4 are going the other way. It's going to be harder to get to where you're going because they're not all going the same direction. If you half going one way, half going the other, you spin in circles. This is that tug of war that we have a lot of times. Part of me wants this, part of me wants that. And dealing with that, finding out how to integrate, how to speak to those parts, how to get them all going the same direction. You can actually move so much further and faster instantly. And that's how I manifest everything that I want. Like it's unbelievable when you change the way that you think and you feel and you speak and you talk to yourself inside, things show up faster in reality. So if I have the way that I'm motivated towards things. So the only reason why I want to heal is so that my mom is happy. That doesn't work. And if you're only doing things for other people, that's not going to work either. But healing starts with understanding the way that your mind works, how you created your reality, and how you got there. And then understanding and believing that you can change that. And that's how I help people.
So when I think about our audience, I know one block that some people might have is time and money. So
that's exactly why you need to work with a healer.
Yeah.
It's exactly why you need the healing. Because if you don't have time now, you're not going to have time later. You're either going to heal now or you're not going to do it later, and your life is just going to get exponentially worse.
Well, what I mean by that is a lot of people, they have kids, they have maybe more than one job. They're trying to figure out, okay, I want to do this, but like some of our audience I know is just new to it, or they're also either starting a family or they're starting out their career in some way. And I know that that's where I was when I started my healing work. I was in my early 20s and didn't have a lot of money, but I had a lot of determination. So I would just get the books and read them basically. And that was how I got started, because books are $10 and you can read them whenever you want. Mm-hmm. So for someone who maybe is in that position when they have kids or they have other obligations in their life, what is the way that they can get the results that they want, or reframe that barrier in some way, or work around it, or still get the things that they're trying to get?
Well, first and foremost is understanding how that person takes in information. You can be an auditory learner. So I love listening to books on tape. Like me, I don't want to read a book. Like I'm like, oh, I get tired and I fall asleep. And if you give me an audiobook, I'm like, okay, I can do 3 other things while I'm listening to that audiobook. Or if you have someone that's like, oh, I can take this class and I get hands-on experience, they get to walk me through. It depends on how that person specifically takes in information, first and foremost. Secondly is having someone to help you. I mean, finding someone that can walk you through that is really important. And if you only have 1 hour or 2 hours a month, that's better than nothing. And if you give yourself that amount of time and you break through some of those healing barriers, guess what? You're going to find more time, more energy, and you're going to be able to do so much more. I had that same thing. So up until about 3 years ago, before I met you, the only personal growth and development that I had ever done was I had a gym membership, and that was it. I didn't really care about my mental health because I was like, I'm fine. I was not.
I was going to say.
I was not fine.
She was, in fact, not fine.
It's like that meme with the dog and the fire, and it's like, I'm fine. No, absolutely not. You would think that I was from the outside. I mean, I had a really great career. You know, I always did well on the outside, but inside I was not okay. And it wasn't until I got real with myself and I got to that point, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And a lot of times that's when people seek out healing, is they're like, I'm tired of this. I can't stand it anymore. I can't do it anymore. So you have to either get to that point, or you have to have the foresight to see, like, what's going to happen in 1 year? Where am I going to be in 1 year if I don't fix this issue? 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. What's going to happen then if I still have all these same issues that I'm dragging through my life that affect other people? Where you are in your life, where in your healing, if you've gone through, you know, circumcision, or if you have other issues, all that stuff is being projected onto the people that you love and care about. Your anger, your frustration, all of that stuff is being pushed onto those other people. And those other people are dealing with your stuff. I mean, and that's not fair. You are responsible. It wasn't okay for someone to do that to you. It was awful that it happened, that any of the awful things from the ACE or any kind of trauma happened to you, but your responsibility is to heal it, because if not, you're putting it on other people, and it's not theirs to bear.
Yeah, I like the saying around this, that it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility now.
Mm-hmm. I also have some people that say, oh, well, the anger drives me. It drives me. It's the thing that gives me the fuel to do the things I need to do.
Yeah.
And anger doesn't serve anyone, actually. Anger, people that say that to me, I'm just like, well, wouldn't it be better to gain the foresight and the learning from that and take all of that negative energy and apply it to something else? Let that go. That motivation. So I'm going to talk about motivation for a little bit.
Go for it.
So there's 2 ways people are motivated, right? They're either motivated by the stick, like, if you don't do this, this bad thing will happen. Or it's like, oh, I got this carrot, and come over here and you dangle this thing in front of me, and then I'll go after it.
Side note, I talk about this in my book, The Intactivist Guidebook, which you can find on my website. Moving on. So
you're either away from or towards motivated. Now, you'll find this a lot in, this is the reason for burnout too. So you're either going towards something because you want it, or you're going towards it because you don't want to feel something bad. So I'm going to give you an example for weight loss. So if I'm like, why do you want to lose weight? Well, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be fat. I want people to like me. No one's ever liked me. That is your motivation for doing it, right? Which is not going towards it because it feels good. And then once you get not fat, you don't have that away from motivation anymore. And then you're like, all of a sudden, like, oh, it's okay. I can have a marshmallow. I can go out to eat. And then the only way you're going to get motivated is when you're back to that square one. And then you're just like, oh no, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be fat. Instead of like, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want people to like me. I want to feel good in my own skin. That is something you can continue to move towards. I find a lot of people in the movement are away from motivated.
Talking about the intactivist movement.
Yes, and the intactivist movement are away from motivated, and that's the reason why burnout happens, and they have to have that they keep going this yo-yo effect back and forth. So that's how, and you know, with the healing I do, I actually find out the reasons why that they're away from motivated, find out the root cause of that, and actually clear that out to where they can actually go towards something and feel good about it. Because imagine when you release all of that negative energy, you have all that energy to go towards the things that you actually want instead of don't want. And, you know, as they say, what you focus on creates your behavior, creates the results you have. So if you don't like the results, that's because your behavior and your thoughts are not lining up with what you want. And that's based off of whether you are away from or towards motivated.
You know, I think too, another misconception some people might have is they say, well, one thing I notice when I talk about healing work is people will sometimes become defensive and say, well, there's nothing wrong with me. And the idea that if you're trying to change the anger or change a particular motivation strategy, that somehow it's wrong or that there's something wrong with them. So I'm curious how you might address
First
that.
and foremost, there's nothing wrong with anyone. You are allowed to have your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and they're all 100 and a million times valid. You have the right to be angry. You have the right to be sad. You have the right to be enraged. And I mean, that's the way that it is. I don't think about it as changing anyone. I think of it as, what can we learn from that anger? What can we learn from that experience to where you can have the wisdom to help someone else through that? Now, growing up, as I said, I'm a 10 on the ACE. I was sexually abused tremendously growing up. So for me, I had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
That I had. I was sexually assaulted by 10 different members of my family up until about 30. So I was very angry because no one believed me. I was very angry because people stood by and called me a liar. And even when I went to the police, nothing happened. Or when I ran away, nothing happened. So I could either hold on to that, or I could find in my past a way to release that. And what I did is I used some of the quantum transformation technique as I went back and I actually learned from it. What can I learn from that? That it was okay to be angry? That I was right? What did I want instead of that? I spoke to my unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is only 3 or 4 years old. It doesn't know any better. I needed to reparent myself through that and come out the other side. And now I know how to navigate those things and help other people through it. Almost to where, like, people always say, like, oh, well, do you wish those things never happened to you? I don't wish that on anyone, but for me, I'm happy that I went through it because now I know how to transform people. And it is my superpower now. And no one can give me an excuse for why I can't break through. That's another really great thing about it. But it's something that you can learn from. And that's how we heal, is we learn from whatever happened and then move forward. But you have to want to do it. If someone completely and totally comes to me and is like, no, I'm never going to heal, you think there's something wrong with me, I deal with the resistance. But if they're not ready and willing to play 100% and willing to do anything, they're not a client. They're not someone that I'll work with. Someone has to want to transform, has to want to change, has to want to break through 100%. I ask my clients point blank, are you willing to do anything? Are you willing to do anything to solve this issue? Are you willing to roll around on the ground? If I asked you right now to get on the ground and start rolling around like a little pig, would you do it? And if they say no, then I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, you're not a client. Because I want people that want to do it. Me, for the stuff that I went through, I'd be like, I'll roll. What, you want this ground? You want the mud? You want me to jump into a pool? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm willing to do anything. Some people are there and some people aren't. And half of my process is finding whether someone is or isn't ready to do that. So forcing people to heal, as I said in the beginning, isn't something that will ever work for anyone. I also asked the question, are you doing this healing for yourself or is it for someone else? Because if they're only doing it for someone else, that's not going to work either. It has to be 100% what they want to do.
That actually came up on an earlier episode, was when people say, oh, I'll it applies to activism as well. Like, oh, I'll do anything to change this in the world. And it's like, well, have you volunteered time? Have you donated money? Oh, I can't afford it. I don't have any free time. It's like, well, it's not really anything. So I think that applies to anything. By the way, you said until age 30. Was it actually 30 or was it earlier than that? Because I wanted to...
So some of the stuff that was happening up until 30 specifically was my grandpa was trying to spank me and touch me when I was in Florida.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it ended when you got out of the house.
No. So it ended when I got out of the house, but I was still going back and I was still involved with the family.
So whenever you'd see your family,
so I'd see
the same
yes,
stuff.
like yeah. I mean, when I moved back to Florida for a bit and I was staying with my grandparents, my grandpa would grab me on my leg and he would threaten to spank me and he would try to bust in on the bathroom, and it was just inappropriate behavior.
Wow.
So I count that as part of that. But if you're asking more sexual than that, then it was probably about 24.
Oh, only 24. It sounds not.
See, when you've experienced what I've experienced, a lot of times that was my life.
Yeah.
So it's shocking for other people, but for me, that was daily life.
Yeah.
And I've actually had people say, well, it doesn't look like you're really upset about it. I'm like, well, this is my daily life and this is what was deemed okay. And I was trained to think that this is the kind of life that was okay for me to live. Just like the way where I lived, how I lived, and the way that I was treated.
I'm glad life is different now.
I know my life is so great. No, really, I have the greatest life ever. And I attribute that to making a decision. I remember the day. It was August 29th, 2018. I made a choice. And I remember sitting down in a seat and just having the spiritual experience. And I was like, there's so much more than this. I deserve more than this. And I know there's something better out there for me. I'm making this change, this huge change now. And that's the end of it. Like, that was the moment I'm like, I'm willing to do anything and try anything.
You said 2019?
2018.
Okay. This is right before we met, right?
1 week before we met.
How about that?
Yes. Well, when you make a choice and you actually put the action out there into the universe, that, cause and effect, that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, is that I made that choice, that it showed the universe that I was ready to make that change. And then all of a sudden you appeared. And that's when the real fun happened. And that's when all the stuff came up, because I finally felt safe enough to have the conversation. Because before, if I've been in relationships where if I said anything about my past or anything like, get over it. Case in point, I was in a relationship and my sister committed suicide in 2010 and that I grew up with. And after she passed away, the person I was with after 2 months was like, it's been 2 months. It's time for you to get over that. So it wasn't even okay for me to mourn anymore. And now thinking about it, like, I want to say probably about 1.5 years ago, I let myself mourn for her after 10 years, almost 10 years of her not being here. I finally allowed myself to cry and to really miss her. And I didn't allow myself to do that because it wasn't okay to do that. It wasn't okay to have emotions. And it was something that was normal to me. So him saying that to me was just like, okay, I guess that's fine. I wasn't allowed to have thoughts, feelings, emotions, or wants or desires as a kid. So it fell right into line with what I normally experienced, which is what I was looking for, right? Based off of my previous experiences and my reality. And then when I met you and you allowed me to have my thoughts, emotions, feelings, desires that I was allowed to process. And you were the one that introduced me to healing method. After you so eloquently explained and reflected a part of my life to me that I thought was normal.
I have no idea. What incident was this? I don't know what you're talking about. Can maybe...
Okay, so let's see. We met in September 2018. And then November, you were doing the AAP protest down in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And I was moving back from Florida to Austin. And I was like, well, hey, how about I drive from Texas to pick you up? And then on our way back, we stop and I get my stuff. And I was like, I want you to meet my grandparents. I want you to see where I grew up. And I brought you to the house, which is a beautiful home. It's like $1 million home. It's built by Walter Gropius. And I'm like, oh, he's going to love it. It's great. It's all these things. And then
it is a gorgeous old haunted horror movie estate.
So I bring you in, I introduce you to my grandpa and their 12 dogs and my grandma, and I show you the upstairs, which is gorgeous. And then I'm like, oh, let me show you where I lived. So I open the door and I take him down the stairs and he's like, where are we going? I'm like, we're going to the basement. And yeah, I guess I'll let you tell what you saw.
I mean, do you want me to?
You can if you want to.
Well, it was an unfinished basement. I mean, it was a basement. It wasn't like we made the basement into like an entertainment area. It was like, this is the dungeon. I don't know, hon. You finish the story.
And then I was like, oh, look, I painted it. And his eyes are just like, just because you paint this doesn't make it okay. And then he commented about it being creepy because my sisters put their little handprints on the wall. And
yeah, it was an unfinished basement with handprints, children's handprints on the wall. And you were like, oh, there's sometimes spiders down here. And there's
spiders, snakes, you know.
Yeah. And then there was like a corner that you were telling me that you slept in on the floor. And we were down there about 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, I was like, this place is haunted. We should go. Like, literally, I was like, there's a ghost in here or something. And I don't like the energy here. And I want to leave.
Yeah. No, I didn't sleep on the floor down there. I had a bed, but upstairs when 5 of us shared a room, I slept on the floor. In one of the bedrooms upstairs. But so after that, we left, and you just opened my eyes to something I didn't see. And that's when it was safe for me to finally have all my emotions about it. And it was one of those things that if a normal person had seen it, it'd be like, okay, we need to take you to the hospital because you are not okay. And you had the tools and the things to help me through that. And I had never had anyone show up for me like that before. And I was like, what is he doing? What is this stuff? What does this mean? And afterwards, I felt a calm and a peace come over me that I hadn't found in a really long time. And then I was just like, I need to know what healing, whatever it was that you did.
Yeah.
And that's when I really jumped full force into it.
So, for reference, when I reflected back to Kristeena what she'd experienced, and I said basically that this wasn't okay, she got really triggered by that and had all the feelings that she hadn't been allowed to have come up. And when that happened, I did completion process with her. And completion process is previously something that I had only done on myself. So for those who don't know, completion process is a healing method developed by Teal Swan. And I had gone to a retreat of hers and started doing that with practitioners afterward, and had done so much of it that eventually I'd basically just gotten the book and learned it myself, because I wanted to, when a feeling came up in me that was overwhelming or triggering in some way, I just wanted to be able to heal it on myself then. And previously with Kristeena, when something would come up between us that would be triggering, I would say like, hey, I have a trigger. I'm just going to go into this. And I would sit in the corner for like a half hour and do the process on myself, and then come back and be like, all right, I'm not triggered anymore, and I can be with you in the way that you need. And she was like, what are you doing? Like, can I learn how to do that? And I was like, I'm not going to be your therapist. But I don't want to have that role, because I like being the boyfriend too much. So I wasn't going to try to be a therapist boyfriend, because my experience is that that's a terrible role and that you should pick one. And so when stuff came up really big for her, it was like, okay, like she's my ride home, and either we're going to go into this, or we're going to have to figure out new transportation back. And it went really smoothly. It was like textbook completion process. And after that, she was like, what is that? I want to learn. And I gave you the book. And I think, did you learn from the book initially?
Yeah, I learned from the book. I read the book. And then I started doing it with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, you know how to do it. So we would trigger each other quite often, as couples do. And I would be like, I'm going to go sit on the bed and do this. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment.
No, not even a 1-bedroom, a 1-room.
A 1-room apartment. So he would sit in his reading chair 10 feet away, and I'd sit on the bed and I would be doing the process. And then he'd come over and be like, where are you at? What step are you on? And I was just like, I'm here. And then he would help guide me. And then
sometimes one of us would get stuck and need some help.
And then I would start doing that for him, and then we became our completion process buddies. And then we did about 300 processes together in the summer, because we would do sometimes 5 hours a day in the beginning. It was a lot. We would just go into it we'd sit down in bookstores and do it if something came up.
So for those who don't know the completion process, we should probably actually talk about when someone's ready to change, what the process is. But I think an important thing about this story is that if you really want it, you'll find a way. So for us, we couldn't at the time necessarily afford to work with a practitioner.
It was because they were $150 for one session.
Yeah, and the book is $10.
Yes, we were doing probably 15 to 20 sessions with each other a week. Yeah. So that would be really out of our budget to do that.
But it was also like, I wanted to, when something came up, I wanted to go into it immediately. And the completion process as a method is designed such that if you have a really big, overwhelming feeling, that's okay. Whereas there are others like timeline therapy or some of the stuff NLP does or hypnosis, where you're outside of the feeling or the experience, looking at it from a detached perspective. And that's really good when you don't want to re-trigger yourself, when you want to just get the learnings from it without going through the feelings. And so that's another thing actually to talk about, is that there are different methods depending on what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And for us at the time, completion process was really good because the feeling was really big and overwhelming. And when you have a big overwhelming feeling, there's some methods that say like, oh, you have to like become detached from that and look at it from the outside. And completion process kind of takes the attitude like,
no, well, you go into it like you're going into the eye of the storm. Exactly. And you feel it fully.
Yep.
And you validate.
So if you haven't been allowed to have your feelings, completion process is a really good one. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you are overwhelmed by your feelings such that you can't focus on anything, another method might be good. So let's actually jump to that question of, if someone hears this and says, I am ready, I want to do my healing, what is the first step? If they have a realization like you did before meeting me, if like, I want to do it, how might they go about it?
Well, there's a couple of things that you got to think about. Is this person looking for someone to help them, or if they're looking to do it on their own?
I think it's going to vary person to person. Obviously, if someone wants to work with someone, she's available. She does stuff. Although you're having a baby in 3 months, so maybe not that available.
So if you are looking for support in that, I offer that support. I do discovery calls to see if, I'm right for someone. I actually, on discovery calls, I decide whether or not I work with someone. I don't take people on. I have a wait list of clients, because I only work with those that are really willing to change. And then also what we can do is, we can make a little list for them of books and things that they could, and free resources that they can use to help them on their healing journey and things. But the first thing is that the first thing I had to do for myself is to tell myself it was okay to need help. It was okay for me to have an issue that I wanted to solve. And because before it was just like, no, I don't need anyone. I should be able to handle this. And that was a lot of the old belief systems and things that I had based off of the way that I was raised. And I was just like trying to reconcile with that. Like, is it okay that I'm needing healing? But first is it's forgiving yourself.
And what does that mean?
Well, it means just like what I said, is that you will be okay with your needs. Is that you are finally understanding that you have needs and knowing that they're all okay, whether it's a want, a need, a desire, and being okay with your own emotions. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be infuriated. Sometimes people don't even allow themselves to have those feelings. They will push them and bottle them and push them so far away from themselves that they don't even have access to them anymore. And they have to be okay with themselves having feelings and needs. And that's where I had to start. Because that was really, really a big hurdle for me. Because I didn't allow myself to feel that. So I always tell people to start with forgiving yourself. If you are like me, maybe you're not. Maybe you're a feeler and you are okay with all those things. But if you're not, that being saying those things to yourself, and then finding the right healing modality for you. Like you were saying, some people get really triggered very easily. Me, I'm like triggered. I want to go into it now. There are some people that don't want to talk about the stuff that happened to them, that don't want to do that. Where quantum transformation technique, where you are disassociated, looking down on it, getting learnings from it, will be better for them because they're not in the emotion anymore. And there are different ways to do the healing. Just like parts integration, where you're either in it or you find the reason for having. You find the reason that this part is acting a certain way. So you can find which modality is best for you. I know for me, the best ones that have worked wonders for me are the completion process, quantum transformation technique, also hypnosis. Hypnosis is amazing. I absolutely love it. I use it every day. And also parts integration. So those are the ones that I use mostly.
I use hypnosis to put you to sleep sometimes. I'll just start talking to you in a very relaxed way.
Yes. It was very nice. I was having a hard time sleeping the other day, and you helped me go to sleep. But, as people, people have a bad rap about certain healing modalities or NLP. NLP is amazing. And to those people that are like, oh no, hypnosis is mind control. What I say to people is, learning.
Keep believing that.
People that say that, I say to them, well, wouldn't you want to learn something, learn a tool to where you know when someone is using that on you, so you can keep your unconscious mind safe. I also look at it as you can use a hammer to build a wonderful shelter to save millions of children, and you can also bludgeon someone to death with it. Now you got to do it with ecology. And for me, I actually train people in hypnosis, quantum transformation technique, and I also train people in NLP. So if you are interested in actually learning these modalities, I actually am a trainer of that in the Master Trainer program for that as well. So I will teach people, and I will not take on people that are going to use it for nefarious things. I will actually kick them out of my training, and I only work with people that it's a win-win-win. Win for me, win for you, win for society, and that's the way that I look at it.
I might teach some people who would use it nefariously for ways that I support. So, so if someone wants to start their healing journey, or maybe they're partway into their healing journey and they want to do even more, what's the next step they could take?
Making a commitment to healing. Making the choice, doing it, actually doing it, setting aside the time to do it. Some people have the time, time constraint. If you do it 1 hour a week, that's 4 hours a month. That's huge for a lot of people. Now I'd find what thing is best for you, and I'd start using it. My biggest thing is I would tell people the first step is to understand how the unconscious mind works. First and foremost, if you don't know how your brain works and how you take in information, how you process information, how you were programmed as a child, and the prime directives of the unconscious mind and what we're always going towards, then that's number one. Second thing is finding out your needs. A lot of people don't even know what they need. Needs and core values are a lot of the time an unconscious behavior, and that's what motivates us to do things. So finding out what that is. So when I was a chef, I ran a James Beard nominated restaurant here in Austin, Texas, and I was really good. I'm really, really good at it.
I can confirm as the one who gets the benefit of her chef abilities most often.
Yeah, the other day he was like, let's watch Saturday morning cartoons and have breakfast. He's like, let's do French toast. And I made him real
She made restaurant brunch French toast, not Brendon's definition of French toast, which is I put eggs on toast and then I fried it.
No, I made custard. No, I did the whole thing. And he was just like, what? But so I was a chef, and I didn't realize that the reason why I was a chef is because I wanted authority. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted approval mostly, and that I had all these unconscious needs that were being met through a job that was not suiting me, that was basically a re-traumatization of my childhood. No thoughts, no feelings, working, sometimes 120 hours a week, having no say, put your head down, do as I say, kind of cutthroat environment. And I didn't realize that was why I was doing it. And then when I met you and I found out to myself, I was like, oh, I'm trying to get all of these needs met. There's other ways to get these needs met and feel fulfilled and not have to endure what I was going through. So finding out what your core values and needs are massively important, because you can find other ways to meet those needs that aren't actually damaging and hurting you, that you can actually change almost instantly like that. And that was something that was massively helpful for me, getting out of that environment. Another thing is that examining your own environment, right? Now, there's the mind and then there's the environment, right? Those are the two main things when it comes to healing. Is that the way that you're thinking and feeling about things is really important, past programming, and then what's in your environment. For me, I had to get into a different environment to really start my healing process. There was no way I was going to heal inside of a kitchen that was all these things were going on. There's drugs and drinking and staying out late and all of this stuff. There's no way for me to do that. Absolutely not. So recognizing that your environment is not serving you and then being willing to change it, which took a lot. I mean, I went to culinary school. I built up a name for myself. But my mental health was way more important than people coming in and telling me they liked my food, right? Now I cook for people that I love. I cook because it feels good. And changing that environment allowed me to heal exponentially faster, but having the wherewithal to know that something needs to change.
I'm glad you changed that environment, but I do want to take a moment to brag about your cooking, if that's okay.
Okay.
Because she's literally had Gordon Ramsay come into her kitchen and tell her that she's doing something right. So,
I mean, yeah, we've had lots of chefs come in.
Lots of chefs. Oh, he's just one of the many chefs.
David Chang. Oh my gosh, Anthony Bourdain.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Anthony Bourdain's come in. Other chefs and stuff have come in, but it's nice. But also that's the approval seeking part of myself. I don't need Gordon Ramsay to tell me I'm doing a good job to know that I'm doing a good job. I should have an inner knowing of that. I should know that myself. But I was trained and programmed to seek that approval, to know only when someone else tells me. And I had to heal that. Now it's 75% internal, 25% external for me instead of the other way around.
So if someone in our audience was starting their healing process, what are some of the things that they could change or might be able to change? What is that? Because you've seen the past episodes, knowing our particular audience, what are some areas that you think specifically might help them, or specific techniques or specific things they could read for someone who's not sure where to start, but knows that this is probably something that they would benefit from?
Parts integration. So let me tell you about parts. So have you ever had a part of you want to quit your job or keep your job? Should I stay with this person? Should I not? Should I eat the whole pizza or not eat the whole pizza? I'm going to eat the whole pizza. No, I'm just kidding. So those are parts. Now, people have an amalgamation of parts inside of them. And
parts meaning part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do the opposite.
Yes. So basically, that we have a lot of these internally inside of us.
Make sure you're on the microphone.
A lot of they are internally inside of us, and they happen at a time of trauma or when you have to make a decision. And it's a split. It's a split in your consciousness. It is a split, and in that, these parts have their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own behaviors. You see this sometimes with alcoholics. They're like, "Oh no, you just became a completely different person. I had no idea who you were." That part and behavior is completely separate from the rest, and they come out of many, many different things. So I would encourage people to the part of them that wants to do healing and the part of them that doesn't.
That's a great way to start.
It's a great way to start, is to integrate the part of you that does and the part of you that doesn't want to do the healing, so that you're in alignment.
Do you want to give a really detailed, like, this is how you do parts work? Like the step by step? Would you think the NLP version or the other version we know?
Well, I could just do a masterclass for your audience.
Oh, so become a member of the show, and you can get our.
And I'll do a free masterclass,
Done.
which is which is about a $500 value. I'll do a free master class. Actually, it's more like $1,000 value that I'll teach you how to do a parts integration to where you can do it on your own.
I mean, I learned it at a Teal Swan event that I paid like $3,000 for. So, but let me tell you, that's some of the best money I ever spent. So I have a story about that. At the Teal event that I went to in
February 2018.
Yeah, there was we did a lot of family constellation work, which is kind of like parts work, except you have different people playing different parts of your consciousness or your family or people in your life. And this is a type of healing work that I would recommend. Do not try this at home. This is one you should do with a practitioner. There's some things you can get the book and read and do on yourself. This is not one of them. This is one that you should definitely work with someone on.
Yes, if you need to do family constellation, you can contact me and I can help you with that.
Yeah. But during these, I worked with 2 different practitioners, and she had people assisting and helping her. And in 2 of them, I had the character of my future wife show up. And these were separate events, so the practitioners hadn't talked to each other, but it showed up in both of them. And I thought, like, I'm gonna be. I didn't tell anyone the time that I had, but I was like, this is gonna be like 2 to 3 years from now that I'll be married. And so part of what we did, it was a workshop on getting what you want. And so you looked at the party that wants what you want, the party that is not a match to what you want. And I got that if I wanted that relationship in my life, I needed to really consistently do the inner work and be with my own feelings of fear and abandonment, like really consistently do that. And so for 6 months afterward, which was during, by the way, the tour for my film and the release of my film, I was just going into everything that came up and very consistently doing completion process. And the day that I met Kristeena, I, at 4:00, went into the part of me using completion process, the part of me that was not a match to the kind of women and sex that I wanted. And then literally late at 5:00 and 6:00 later, I met you. So that worked out. So I'm a huge believer in parts work, and the version of it that we did involved basically embodying different parts of you. But there's versions of parts work you can do where you don't actually have to go into the part. You can kind of see it from third person. So that's why I say, like, oh, that's the best money I ever spent. You know what I mean? Because the skill, I got what I wanted. It paid off.
Parts work has completely and totally changed my life and made me a match and made me get what I want exponentially faster. It deals with the resistance that you would have to getting what you want, because you want all the oarsmen going in one direction, then 1 or 2 not going in that direction, and this gives you the way to actually make that happen. And sometimes it's less than 20 minutes. Like, it's fast. And we were like, well, I don't have enough time. Like, well, do you have 15 to 30 minutes, like, to do this?
That's another misconception, is that it has to take a long time. And I think that comes from people having their issue for a long time. And often it's the resistance that takes a long time. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want to let go of an issue, or you've been feeling it a long time, like, often the resistance to the feeling is what's taking up all the energy and focus. And once you actually go towards it and allow yourself to feel the resistance, you run out of the feeling in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. And also, the more you do parts work, the more you do the integrations and letting go of the emotions and things like that, the faster it is. I've had parts integrations that have taken like 2 or 3 minutes because I was ready to let it go.
Yeah.
I was ready to integrate it. And it was just like, what do you need? What do you need? Okay, we found the third option. It's good to go now.
So for reference, by the way, for those who don't yet have a clear idea of what parts work is, In parts work, you would go into each part of you that wants something. So let's say you want a relationship. You might have a part of you that really does want a relationship. And it's like, yeah, I would love that. And then there might be a part of you that maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not aware of it, that does not want a relationship and is the reason you're really not in it. So that part, if you were to go into it and talk to it, would say things, just as an example, maybe like, oh, I'm afraid this person will hurt me, or I'm afraid I'll be abandoned, and will keep you from a relationship to protect you from that hurt or abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the perspective of that aspect of you, it's protecting you. It's keeping you safe from this potential danger by preventing you from getting what you want. And this happens to people around money. Like I see a lot of, with the activists, I know a lot of blocks around money, because there's an idea, oh, well, if I receive money for the work that I'm doing, that somehow corrupts it, or will drive it, or will determine which activism and work gets done and which doesn't. All sorts of different beliefs that, maybe if you're really focused on that, you'll attract that into your reality, but also maybe you'll do what you're already going to do with more money backing it.
Mm-hmm.
My book, by the way, goes into a lot of this too. So you can find, if you're looking for the $10 book option, there's that. And in the back of the book, there's a section called Further Training, where I give you a list of all sorts of healing books that I've benefited from and have worked for me.
And if you are interested in making more money, or if you're things like that, I do a conscious sales course as well that helps you understand your motivation, whether it's towards or away from money, and allows you to clear out money blocks that are holding you back from making the money that you deserve in a way that feels good to you. Yeah.
So Kristeena, is there anything that you want to add before we finish up? Well, let me see our time here. Yeah, we're at about an hour, a little over an hour. Anything that you want to add?
Let's see.
Anything we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to talk about?
How to talk about healing with someone that you know that needs it.
No, that's a good topic.
So that is a very tiptoey subject because someone has to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, going up to someone and just saying, you need healing, you should see someone about that, is not the way to do it. But
I don't understand. Why does just telling people everything wrong with them not work in relationships?
I have no idea. It's just like, you need to do this. You can't yet. So I'm going to tell you what not to do first is don't tell someone they need healing. Don't make someone feel wrong for the emotions and things that they have. Could we
frame these in my NLP training is kicking in with all these don'ts?
Well, I tell you what you don't do and then tell you what to do, so you remember what to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So you pattern interrupted me.
I did, yeah. I do that a lot. One of the things that happens frequently between us.
I'm like, I'm going on a tangent. And okay. So not telling someone that they need healing, not being with them in their emotions, and making them wrong for the issues that they have in their life. Instead, the way that I would approach it is coming at it from a complete and total understanding. Asking questions, getting very curious about what someone's feeling, their emotions, and understanding their needs. I like to ask you a lot is, what do you need? What is it that you're needing right now? And doing it in a way that's like, what do you need? It's like, no, what is it that you're needing right now? What do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel loved? What do you need to move forward? And really, really focusing on that. And allowing a person to have safety in their emotions, feelings, wants, desires, and stuff like that will allow a lot of that stuff to start to bubble up, and then will allow them to see that maybe they do need some help. But I mean, outright telling someone that they need it is not not the way to do it. So
it sounds like the not the way to do it, the incorrect way, the way that's likely to get a result that you don't want. It sounds like that is often framing the healing as criticism or really heavily breaking rapport in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And contradicting what that person's reality or what they think they already want or their previous beliefs. And I think a lot, when I talk about healing work, I know a lot of people, that's been their previous frame around it, is that, oh, if I need healing work, there must be something wrong with me, as opposed to that something wrong was done to you at some point in your life that left lasting feelings, beliefs, programming of some kind that you could let go of. And actually, that's one topic that I would like to include before we finish, which is, how does the opposite of healing happen? How is it that that people receive the wrong or beliefs that don't serve them or feelings that don't serve them? Why is it that this stuff is needed in the first place for so many people?
Well, these beliefs and stuff that don't serve people served them at one point. So let's see. One for me was, growing up, my family said we are financially challenged. So if I had the belief that we're financially challenged, it was easier for me to not ask for things. It was, if I believed that, then I was like, oh, this is a reason why I can't ask for things. And now I feel safe and I don't feel so bad. I was avoiding pain. So if I was just like always upset that I couldn't get candy at the candy store, that I couldn't get the gifts that I wanted, and then I couldn't get the Secret Sender 6000 when I was a kid or what have you, that instead of experience all the pain of not getting the things I wanted, I was like, oh, if I believe that we're financially challenged, then that stops that pain. So that's the reason why. So they did serve you at one point. Those beliefs absolutely served you. But now, since you're not in that situation anymore, that you believed that, I believed that, started believing when I was like about 5. I'm not 5 anymore. My situation has changed, but I've carried that with me for so long, and I never let that go. So now it is wreaking was wreaking havoc in my life. That was financially challenged, and it wasn't until I let that go that I was able to close a $5,000 client. Like, how dare I ask someone for $5,000 for healing work? And now I'm like, no, I can do that. Like, that's fine. I know how to handle money. I can do this. And I'm not challenged at all. Actually, I'm abundant and it feels really good. But they're always born out of necessity and out of safety. And I had to go back and tell that 5-year-old me and learn from that situation and catch that 5-year-old up to, hey, you're no longer there anymore. You can make a different decision. What do you want instead? I'm like, well, I want empowerment. I want to make money. I wanted to choose the life that I wanted instead of what I was told to keep myself safe.
I might have a limiting belief around money or two. One of them being just that if I am also incredibly rich, that you won't want me just for my handsome good looks and will just want me for my money. Do you think that you could manage to also
want you for your good looks and your money?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can want you for both.
All right, thanks. We just worked through a money block here on here. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we finish? Anything we haven't talked about that we should?
Well, I guess I'll just reiterate. For those of you that are interested in learning a healing modality, parts integration, sign up for your subscription service.
BrendonMarotta.com/show. You can become a member of the show there, and we'll do it later this month.
Yeah, and I'll do that teaching, and then I'll be there for people that want to learn. And that if you are struggling and you actually want to make that change and you're willing to do anything, contact me. If I'm not the right person for you, that's fine. I know other people that are the right people. And if you are looking for some resources and stuff like that, then we can put together some resources for you if you want to learn on your own. If you want to learn the techniques and tools that I know, I'll be doing trainings and you can learn them from me. And that's pretty much all I have to say. The last thing is your needs, your wants, your desires are 100% okay. And don't ever let anyone tell you that they're not, because it's okay to have been hurt, to have experienced all the things that you've experienced. But it's time for everyone to take responsibility and heal from those things once you're ready.
I love you, hon. That was a great note to end on.
I love you too.
Thank you for listening to the Brendon Marotta Show. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone else who would also like it, and then go on whatever platform you listen to the show on and leave a positive review. If you want to support the show directly, go to brendonmarotta.com/show and subscribe there. Paid subscribers get special unreleased bonus material and live events that are only available to them. Once again, that is brendonmarotta.com/show. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all later.